You don't really know who you are until you get punched in the face. And then you have about 10 seconds, fold or fight. And fear doesn't hit you like a thought. It hits you like a glove to the jaw. Fast, messy, and without warning. This episode isn't about boxing. It's about what boxing reveals when everything else is stripped away. So, let's get clear. Most people don't ask questions. If you want confidence, competence, purpose, you don't need more theory, you need more reps. Welcome back to Clearer Now, a podcast for the kind of clarity you only get through pressure. I'm Dominic Müller, and today's episode is about fighting, but not in a way that you might think. I'm not here to convince you to get in a ring and box. I'm here to walk you through what stepping into that ring taught me and about fear and also about myself. Because for 4 years, I trained, fought, bled, and came back for more. And man, it wasn't to win. It was not to get a belt or to go pro, but because I needed to feel something real. Something most men are afraid to go for, and that's pressure. This story, it's about the pain that doesn't just hurt, it shapes you. So let me take you back, all the way back before boxing. Who was Dominic before boxing, right? I wasn't a fighter. I was just angry, but not the kind of anger that you would see in loud kids or class clowns. I'm talking about that deep, quiet rage, that the kind that lives in your chest and waits for something to burn. Does that make sense? I wasn't violent for fun. I was violent because it was the only thing that made sense in a world that felt unfair. I had moved my entire life, right? Germany, Thailand, America, Germany, back to Thailand, China, Australia, back to Thailand. And every time I settled, I had to start over. Every time I made a real friend, I moved. Every time I began to feel like I belonged, gone. You know what that does to a kid? It makes you stop trying. It makes you detach. Remember what I was telling you about in episode 2. That's my thought process the whole time, even before boxing, detached and everything else. I stopped forming deep bonds because I knew they wouldn't last. I stopped dreaming because the second life gave me something, it pulled the rug straight away, right under from me. It and then I was 17 years old, Thailand again, starting grade 12, no foundation, no roots, no vision, and I hated it. I was angry all the time at people, at life, at God. I didn't feel understood, and honestly, I didn't want it to be. People thought I needed therapy. They said I had anger management, anger issues, but they didn't get it. I didn't want it to scream. I wanted to hit because the only thing I could control was how hard I trained or how hard I punched. Emotionally, I was drowning. So I looked for air in the physical. That's why I like pain, because at least it was real and it made sense. Even at home, even at home, I didn't feel free. My mom loved me, don't get me wrong, but she didn't let me go out. So I found a loophole, as any kid might. I told her I was training because how could she say no to that, right? Her son's training, her son's getting better. And that's how boxing started. I didn't want to be world champion per se. I just wanted to hurt someone the way life had hurt me. I know that sounds really dark, but I was in a dark place. One day in class, I saw my history teacher, Mr. James, punching air and shadowboxing while the whole class was taking notes. And I was like, what are you doing? Are you a boxer? And he said, yeah. So I asked him, can you train me? Just like that. Just like that. And there was no deep reason in the moment, no Hollywood backstory, just a broken kid asked for a fight and he said yes. That's when something shifted in me. For the first time in a long time, I had a reason to wake up, a reason to sweat, a reason to breathe. Because if I couldn't fight life, maybe I could fight in life. And that's how the gloves went on. James wasn't just a coach, he became like a second father to me. He saw right through the mask. He didn't just see a student with fast hands, he saw a boy trying not to drown in life. Our first session was nothing special, right? We met after school downstairs at our school grounds, no crowd, no spotlight, just two people, one set of gloves, and some boxing pads. But when I put those gloves on, man, something clicked. It was the first time in a long time that I felt powerful again. Not in a way that made me want to hurt someone, but in a way that made me want to heal myself again. Those gloves didn't just protect my hands, they gave me something to hold on to, something that couldn't be taken away from me, something mine. James didn't train me like a student, he trained with me. When I ran, he ran. When I struggled, he struggled right beside me. And he wouldn't let me do anything alone. And that was the most powerful thing because I had done everything alone before for years. He pushed me to the edge. He taught me what it meant to feel like you've got nothing left and still throw one more punch. The training was brutal, don't get me wrong, but it was honest. He didn't lie to me. He wouldn't tell me I was great when I truly wasn't. He corrected me. He challenged me. He called me out when I slacked. And when I approved, he damn well made sure that I knew it. Slowly, my body changed. The kid who used to be called skinny was now cut, strong, and moving like a fighter, right? People back in Germany saw photos and I couldn't believe it. They were like, Dominic, bro, what happened to you? And I'd answer, I found something worth suffering for. But the real transformation wasn't physical, it was mental. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. Boxing gave my rage somewhere to go, somewhere productive, somewhere that a place where instead of exploding at people, I was shaping myself, rebuilding the foundation life had torn up. And it started to show. School felt different. I walked the halls with a different energy, not cocky, just anchored. People noticed. Some respected it, others doubted it. But it all, I mean, they all talked about it. My classmates watched me train after school. They'd sit on the steps or on the benches and they'd watch me and James go to war. And some of them started to join actually. Even the ones who had no interest in boxing but just wanted to be part of the fire. It brought people together. It brought me back to life. My circle got tighter, stronger. The same people who once saw me as the angry kid were now seeing someone who was disciplined, someone who stood for something. And knowing that was a great feeling. Even my mom, a person who used to say no to everything, started saying yes. She didn't like the idea of fighting. I mean, let's be honest, what mother would? But she saw the change in me. She saw that this wasn't violence, it was transformation. And my dad, well, he was clear. One fight, then you focus on your studies. I agreed. Little did they know that wouldn't be the first fight. Not the first, not the last. It would be the beginning of everything. So, Victor was supposed to be just a sparring partner, nothing more. But the second day after I texted him, he came back with an idea, and that idea changed everything. He said, "You're popular at your school, I'm popular at my school. Why don't we make it a real fight?" At first, it sounded wild, but then something in me loved it. We weren't just going to fight, we were going to make it an event. And that's exactly what we did. Over the next few months, it turned into a war of schools, mock press conferences, shit talking over Instagram stories, posters, predictions, even little side bets between students about who would win. The tension was thick. Everyone had picked a side. Every hallway conversation somehow circled back to the fight. Some people wanted to see me lose, others wanted to see me win. But everyone in that town was watching. And I was training like I'd already lost because I didn't want to go into the ring and hope. I wanted to go in there and know. So every morning before school, I ran. While others were asleep, I was out on the road. Every afternoon, I trained with James. And sometimes, when the sun went down, I hit the gym again for a third session, or I did some recovery laps in the pool. Victor was posting clips, talking like he had already had it in the bag. I mean, I talk my fair shit too, but it was just for show. December came fast. The night before, I barely slept. Not out of fear, but out of energy. I was so excited. I couldn't wait to prove it. I woke up, ate clean carbs, and hydrated, stretched. My bag was already packed from the night before: gloves, tape, shorts, mouth guard. The moment I stepped into the venue, I felt it. The room was full, and not just with people, it was full of expectation. I mean, think about this. You ever walk into a room and feel every eye on you before they even turn their heads? That was it. And my friends were there, my family was there. James was in my corner. They called our names out. The walk to the ring, surreal. It was the lights, they felt brighter. The air, it felt thicker. I looked at Victor in the ring and I saw someone who didn't train like I did. Someone who had a plan for the show, but not for the war. But let me say this, right, before everyone is trying to put words in my mouth. Victor stepped up. He was lighter, he was shorter, but he showed up. He showed up like a warrior. And I've got nothing but respect for him. We were just two young men with something to prove. Anyways, let's get to the fight. We touched gloves. The bell rang. Round one. He came in fast, maybe trying to prove something, but his reactions were too slow. I slipped his jab, launched a straight right, clean. He walked right into it. He hit the canvas hard. The crowd went insane. Phones out, screaming. It felt like I was inside a dream. It was insane. But I locked back in because the fight wasn't over. I wasn't here for a moment. I was here for a message. Victor got back up. Again, credit to him. But after that, the tone shifted. He was cautious. I was calm. 4 rounds, I controlled them all. And when the final bell rang, I had my hand raised high. Unanimous decision. I turned to the crowd, but more importantly, I turned to my parents, to James. I hugged them tightly and then I cried. Not from pain, not from relief, but because for the first time in my life, I felt seen. That fight didn't just win me respect. It gave me something I'd never felt, never even had, a sense of self. I wasn't some angry, lost kid anymore. That night, I didn't just beat Victor. I buried the version of me who thought he was a nobody. And when I stepped out of that ring, I wasn't just a fighter. I was Dominic Miller. And I was dangerous now. Not because I could throw a punch, but because I finally had purpose. And the best part, me and Victor were still cool. I mean, a few weeks later, on New Year's Eve, we even grabbed a drink together because real respect doesn't disappear after the fight. It gets stronger. Two young men gave it their all. And that night, win or lose, we both walked out better than we walked in. But after the fight, I stopped. My dad sat me down and he looked at me in the eye and reminded me of our agreement. One fight, he said, then it's time to focus on university. And I understood him. He wasn't trying to kill the fire, he was trying to protect the future. And I knew I was about to graduate. I had to start engineering school. I had responsibilities. So I said yes. And I stopped fighting. But I didn't stop training. The gloves were still in my room, the discipline was still my bones, and the hunger was still my gut. I kept my routine. I kept my diet clean. I kept showing up at the gym. Not for the next opponent, but for myself. And strangely, for the first time in my life, I felt in control, even without a fight ahead of me. Because boxing had already done its job. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes the fight doesn't last forever, but the fighter it made you does. I wasn't waking up to prove something anymore. I was just living the way I was supposed to, and that was disciplined, focused, hungry. Even though the ring was gone, the ring in me stayed. Because once you walked through real pressure and come out the other side, you don't forget how to breathe in the chaos. You learn to stay sharp, even in silence. And that silence, it didn't mean I was done. It just meant that the next chapter was about to begin. Then came Chris, Victor's close friend. He'd seen the fight, he'd heard the noise, and every year since, he'd text me, "When are we going to fight?" Every year, I said no. I was busy, I was studying, I was moving on. But then one day, 2023, he said something differently. He said, "Let's put money down. Winner takes all." That changed everything. For him, it was a flex. But for me, it was my entire account. But I didn't see it as a gamble. I saw it as a statement. Because Chris came from money. I didn't. He was betting with comfort. I was betting with consequence. And that right there, that's the difference between someone who wants to win and someone who needs to win. So I said yes. I went back into the fire. I found a Muay Thai gym near my university and threw myself into the grind again. I'd wake up 6 a.m., 5 kilometer run, protein and carbs for breakfast, off to university, focus in class, but always thinking about training. Big lunch, no snacks. That was my life. After class, that's when I do the training in the Muay Thai gym. 3 hours, technical drills, backward, sparring, pads, no skipping rounds, no excuses. Come home, 2 big dinners to keep my weight. Then, recovery, swimming sessions with my friends, soft stretches, cold showers. That was my life. And to maintain it, I had to cut off everything. I said no to parties, no to hangouts. I didn't go out on weekends. I was either training, sleeping, or studying. And even studying was minimal. Because I was blessed to be naturally good at school. I passed classes with ease, doing the bare minimum because my mind was somewhere else. My mind was in the ring. I had people around me, my boys, Pavel and James. They checked in on me just to make sure I'm okay. My boxing family stood with me, but emotionally, I kept it inside. Because even with love around you, it can still feel like you versus the world. But I liked it that way. I wanted the pressure. I needed the pressure. But deep down, I knew I couldn't step into the ring against Chris without sharpening myself first. So I signed up for two more amateur bouts. And my first fight was in December 2023. 4 years after my first fight. New opponent, new stage, new crowd. But the energy, the hunger, that was still the same. I stepped into the ring like I had nothing to prove, but everything to lose. And the bell rang. I snapped into place. Clean shots, sharp movement, tactical control. I wasn't just stronger, I was smarter. And then, when it was done, I had my hand raised again. This time, something felt different though. The crowd didn't want to see me lose. They weren't there watching to see if I'd fall. They were there because they believed in me. My family, my friends, even strangers. And after the fight, I went into the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror and I saw the same gloves, same sweat, but the face staring back at me wasn't the angry kid anymore. It was the man I'd been training to become. That night, I didn't just win a fight, I found peace with the war inside me. I smiled because I knew the world hadn't changed. I had. Then came the next fight. The one I knew would be hell. This wasn't just any opponent. This guy was built like a tank, taller, heavier, stronger on paper. But I agreed because this was the weight class Chris wanted to fight in, 78 kilograms. My natural weight is around 70 to 74 kilograms. But I didn't care. I wanted to smoke. I trained harder than ever, more intense than any camp I'd ever done. No distractions, no emotions, just work. My training turned brutal. Longer rounds, fewer breaks, heavy sparring. I wanted to get hit. I needed to get hit. I needed to feel what it meant like to go to war. I was obsessed, dialed in, eating more to bulk, running more to stay cut, sparring guys twice the size of me, just to prepare for the speed, the shock, and the size of the opponent I was up against. By the time fight night came, I was ready. Or so I thought. The venue was packed. Different town, different energy. This time, people knew me. People respected me. They knew I came to fight. I stepped into the ring. I looked across at my opponent, and he was big, built, broad shoulder, calm eyes. I nodded to myself. Let's go. The bell rang. Round one. We traded early. He hit hard, real hard. The kind of power that moves you whole body, even when you block. But I smiled. I laughed. I wasn't there to avoid pain. I was there to welcome it. Round two. He caught me with a hook. I didn't see it coming. I stumbled. Then came the right. It landed flush. And for a second, the lights flickered. I went down. Silence. Crowd stunned. People held their breath. My friends leaned forward. James stood still in my corner. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, and then I smiled again because I wasn't done. I got up, nodded at the ref, put my gloves up, and I kept fighting. Blood in my mouth, ears ringing, legs slightly shaky, but my heart strong. Round 3. We went at it, let me tell you. Toe to toe, fire for fire. He was winning. I knew that, but I didn't care because the crowd came to see a fight and I was going to give them a show. Every punch he landed made me smile even more. It made me feel more alive. And every time I got hit, I laughed. Not because I'm crazy, but because pain wasn't my enemy anymore. It was my teacher, and I listened. When the final bell rang, I already knew the result. He had the edge. He deserved to win. I stood in the center, gloves raised, smiling. I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't even bitter. I lost on paper. But I walked out of that ring undefeated in spirit. Because even in defeat, I stood tall. Because I didn't fold. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I performed. That night, I saw a new version of me that I've never seen before. A warrior who didn't need to win to know his worth. My friends came up to me after the fight. No pity, no fake comfort, just jokes, laughter, brotherhood. That's why I love them. They said, "Bro, you're insane. You smiled while getting the shit beat out of you." And I was, because in that moment I knew there is no light without darkness. And I am the embodiment of that. That loss didn't break me, it revealed me. And what it revealed was a man who can get knocked down and get back up again with a grin. That's real power. That's real self love. That's the kind of man I became that night. Everything was set. Date locked in, gloves picked up, venue sorted, money ready, sitting on the table. Winner takes all. This was the moment the entire town had been waiting for. The one I had been training for. Chris versus Dominic. After 4 years of build up, the story finally came full circle. I packed my bag like it was a ritual. Same gloves, same hand wraps, same playlist in the car. I wasn't just driving to Hue, I was driving to war. But then, halfway through the trip, I got a message from James. Chris cancelled. I stared at my phone. I didn't even blink. He said he hadn't been training, he's busy with work. I pulled the car over, sat in silence, looked out the window at nothing in particular, but anger didn't come at first. Disappointment did. Because I heard those same excuses before, back when I was in uni, when I was working, when I was juggling everything and still found the time to train. He had the time. He just didn't have the same fire as me. He realized what I already knew. He wasn't ready. He couldn't beat me. I was furious. Yeah. All those weeks, all that sweat, all that mental buildup, poof, gone. But after the anger settled, something unexpected hit me. I wasn't disappointed because I couldn't fight him. I was disappointed because I didn't get to express me. The fight wasn't, it was never against Chris. It was against the man that I was still becoming. And now, and now, that moment of expression was gone. That's when I realized I didn't love boxing anymore. Not the sport, not the politics, not the broken promises. I loved boxing for what it gave me. It gave me a mirror, a mission, a mindset, the discipline, the identity, the hunger, the brotherhood. Do you know what I mean? Those were the things that changed me. Not the title, not the glory, not even the win. So I didn't stop training. I still woke up. I still ran, still hit the bag, still shaped my body. But I stopped pretending I was going to go pro. Because deep down, I never really wanted it. I wanted legacy. I wanted business. I wanted impact. Boxing taught me how to fight so I could build a life worth protecting. And that chapter, well, it wasn't ripped from my hands, it was closed by me with peace. Boxing didn't just teach me how to throw a punch, it taught me how to face what most men run from. It taught me that fear isn't the enemy, it's your mirror. It shows you where you're still weak, where you're still lying to yourself. And I wasn't scared of getting hurt anymore. I was scared of my parents seeing me lose, scared of my mom watching her son in pain, scared of my dad seeing me fall. Ego, that wasn't the point. That this wasn't about pride. It was about love. That's when I understood that a real man doesn't fight to prove he's tough. He fights to show you he can protect what he loves. And pain, well, me and pain are best friends. I fell in love with pain. Not in some masochist, performative way, but because pain made me honest. It pushed me deeper. It forced me to stop hiding behind potential and actually become the man I claimed I wanted to be. Pain sharpened me mentally, physically, spiritually. Because when you get hit in the face, there's no faking who you are. Boxing stripped me down to my rawest form, and I liked who I saw underneath. It also redefined masculinity for me. We're sold on this idea that men are supposed to dominate, to be loud, aggressive, emotionless. But boxing taught me something else. Boxing taught me that true masculinity isn't overpowering others, it's helping them rise with you. In that ring, I found brotherhood, even with my opponents, even with the ones who wanted to knock me out. I prayed before every fight, not just for myself, but for them too. I prayed for safety, for calm, for strength, because I didn't see them as an enemy. I saw them as a fellow soldier on their own path. And I know God heard those prayers because He never gave me an easy fight. He gave me lessons, He gave me storms to teach me how to be calm in chaos. I once heard this quote that said, God doesn't test you to break you, He tests you to build you. I came into boxing with an ego, but I left with humility. I entered as a kid and I left as a man who could look himself in the mirror and say, I'm proud of you. Because I didn't just learn how to fight, I learned how to live with structure, with courage, with love, with faith. I became someone worth becoming. And that's something no opponent, no knockout, no belt could ever take away from me. Pressure builds men, pain reveals character, and purpose? Well, purpose gives the fight meaning. You don't have to be a boxer, you don't have to wrap your hands and climb into a ring, but you do need a fight. You do need a battle worth showing up for. Because if you run from pressure, you run from who you could have been. And if you run from fear, you never get to meet the strongest version of yourself. The man who avoids pressure never grows, and the man who avoids fear never leads. And leading in life, in love, in anything really, it's not about being perfect, it's about being willing to bleed first, to take the hit before anyone else does, to carry the weight when others hesitate, to rise when it's easier to slow down. Leadership isn't just about guiding others, it's about conquering yourself. And for that, you're gonna need a ring. Maybe your ring is business. Maybe it's a broken relationship that needs fixing. Maybe it's waking up every morning and facing the part of you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, step into it. Because when you do, you learn something. If you want to lead, you better be ready to bleed. That's the truth I found in boxing. But it's also the truth I carry into every single room I enter, every project I build, every conversation I have. You can't fake a fight scar, and you can't fake the clarity that comes from walking through life and coming out forged. So stop avoiding the pressure, stop delaying the fight, get in the ring. Your legacy is waiting. This week, find your fight. Maybe it's the truth you've been running from. Maybe it's a conversation you've been too afraid to start. Maybe it's finally looking yourself in the mirror and not flinching at what you see. Whatever it is, lean into it because pressure isn't your enemy, it's your test. And you don't pass that test by being perfect. You pass it by showing up. When it's hard, you pass it by bleeding a little. The ring doesn't make you stronger, it just shows you if you already are. So step in. And if this episode hit you, if it stirred something in you, do me a favor, like, subscribe, hit the bell, share with your friends. Because next week, we're diving even deeper. And I promise you, it's only getting clearer from here. Stay sharp, stay curious, and I hope things are clearer now.